The sound of Buck's whimpering filled the warm Alabama air, a haunting melody that echoed against the peeling paint of the barn. Roy glanced down at his faithful dog, the golden fur glistening in the sun, but all Buck could do was stare, a solid wall of resolve between him and the threshold of the barn. Something was off. Something heavy lingered in the air, thick like the summer humidity. Roy knelt beside his dog, resting a reassuring hand on Buck's back. "What is it, boy?" he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. But Buck only whined softly, his deep brown eyes wide with confusion and fear. Days passed, and Buck refused to budge, standing sentinel at the barn door. For Roy, the summer heat became unbearable, not just from the sweltering sun, but from the gnawing curiosity that turned the barn into a peculiar enigma. The barn, once a sanctuary of memories and laughter, now stood shrouded in an unsettling silence. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a harsh light on the dusty ground. Roy wiped his brow, glancing at the old structure that had housed countless cattle and tools throughout the years. "Maybe you just don't like the smell in there," he chuckled one afternoon, trying to ease the tension that hung between them. They stood outside, the sun casting long shadows, and Roy felt a knot twist in his stomach. Inside, the barn was a labyrinth of splintered wood and forgotten memories, once vibrant with life. But now, it seemed cloaked in secrets, shadows dancing in the corners, mingling with the soft rustle of hay. As summer wore on, the days grew longer, and the air thick with humidity. An unexpected storm approached, dark clouds rolling in like a somber blanket. Buck's instincts kicked in again, his eyes darting towards the barn, and Roy sensed the urgency. That evening, after the last raindrop had fallen, the world felt washed anew, but tension still clung like the humidity. Roy took a deep breath and stepped forward, his heart racing as he pushed the barn doors open. The creaking sound echoed ominously in the silence, reverberating through the air like a call to the past. Buck hesitated before taking a step back, a low growl escaping his throat, a clear warning from his loyal companion. Inside, the dim light barely illuminated the clutter. Dust motes hung suspended in the air, swirling like spirits waiting for recognition. As his eyes adjusted, Roy felt a jolt of recognition strike him. There was something there, something important, yet he couldn't quite grasp it. The barn seemed to hold its breath, waiting for him to uncover what lay beneath the layers of time and dust. With Buck by his side, the weight of unspoken questions grew heavier. Roy knew he had to confront whatever mystery lay within those walls. It was time to find out what his dog had sensed all along. Roy Montgomery was a simple man, a cattle farmer in his late 40s, living on the sprawling land that had been in his family for generations. The Montgomery farm nestled in the rolling hills of Alabama, surrounded by fields of golden grass swaying in the gentle breeze. Mornings dawned gently on this land, with the soft crows of roosters heralding the day. The scent of fresh hay often mingled with the earthy aroma of damp soil, creating a comforting routine that shaped his life. Each day began the same way, rising with the sun, tending to the cattle, feeding them with care. Roy had a rhythm to his life that felt as natural as the seasons. He would head to the barn, running his hand over the wooden beams that had weathered countless storms, feeling as if the structure had become a part of him. It was a place where laughter and hard work intertwined, where the echoes of his children playing hide and seek among the bales of hay still resonated in his mind. But this summer felt different. The dust swirling in the air held stories he had yet to discover, whispers of a past he had never known. Each day he noticed Buck's hesitation, his soft growls as they walked past the barn, a reminder of the unspoken mystery that loomed over his daily life. Buck, his loyal golden retriever, had always been in tune with his surroundings, sensing emotions and changes in the world around him. Since the beginning of the summer, Buck had taken to standing guard at the barn door, his eyes fixed with an intensity that made Roy uneasy. "Maybe you just don't like the smell in there," Roy chuckled one afternoon, trying to ease the tension that hung between them. They stood outside, the sun casting long shadows, and Roy felt a knot twist in his stomach. The barn, a safe haven for many years, now felt strangely ominous. Each creak of the wooden structure seemed to echo his own unease, as if the barn itself was alive with secrets it longed to reveal. As summer wore on, the days grew longer, the air thick with humidity that clung to him like a second skin. The cicadas sang their relentless song, and the sun hung high in the sky, casting a harsh light on the dusty ground. One evening, while Roy was repairing a fence, he felt the first rumble of thunder in the distance. He looked up at the sky, dark clouds rolling in like a somber blanket. Buck's instincts kicked in again, his eyes darting towards the barn, and Roy sensed the urgency. "Come on, Buck, we should head inside before the storm hits," Roy called, his voice tinged with unease. Buck hesitated, his ears perked, still fixated on the barn. Roy felt a strange chill run down his spine, as if the very air around them was charged with something unnameable. The storm broke loose that night, rain hammering against the roof like a relentless drum. Roy sat at the kitchen table, glancing out the window, watching the sheets of rain blur the landscape. The barn stood resolute, a dark silhouette against the backdrop of a restless sky. Buck lay at his feet, occasionally lifting his head to listen to the storm's fury. "I hope everything's all right in there," Roy murmured, mostly to himself. He couldn't shake the feeling that the barn was somehow alive, holding on to memories and perhaps even secrets from the past. When morning came, the air was cool and crisp, a welcome change from the stifling heat that had settled over the land. Roy stepped outside, taking a deep breath, and turned his gaze towards the barn. Buck was already at the door, tail wagging but still hesitant. With a determined heart, Roy approached the barn. "All right, boy, let's find out what's going on," he said, nudging the heavy doors open. They creaked in protest, but Roy pushed forward. The dim light barely illuminated the cluttered space, the scent of wood and hay filling his nostrils. Dust motes floated in the beams of light that broke through the cracks in the walls, creating an ethereal atmosphere. As he ventured deeper inside, Roy felt a jolt of recognition strike him. The barn was cluttered with remnants of a life once lived, old tools, rusted machinery, and the faint echoes of laughter. But something was different today. It was as if the barn was holding its breath, waiting for him to uncover what lay beneath the layers of time and dust. Among the familiar chaos, a glimmer caught his eye. Something was hanging from the rafters. Buck whined softly, his body tense as he stepped closer. Roy squinted against the shadows and gasped. There, hanging from the rafters, were small leather boots, dozens of them, all carefully arranged by size, and each one attached to a note. "Thank you for the shelter. We'll be back someday. We're safe now." The notes dated back to 1998, a year Roy remembered only as a blur of fleeting memories. He was still young then, working the land alongside his uncle, unaware of the storm that had ravaged neighboring counties, leaving families seeking refuge in his barn. "What in the world?" Roy whispered, tracing the letters with his finger. The realization crashed over him like a tidal wave. The barn had been a sanctuary for those in need. Buck was right. He had sensed the remnants of those countless stories. He felt a wave of emotion wash over him, a strange mixture of pride and sorrow. Roy could easily take the boots down, discard the reminders of the past, but something tethered him to the moment. Each boot, each note was a reminder of resilience, a testament to lives once intertwined with his own. As he delved deeper into the barn's secrets, he found more than just boots and notes. An old, dust-covered trunk sat in the corner, half hidden beneath a faded tarp. Curious, Roy approached it, kneeling down to examine the latch. It was rusted, but with a gentle pull it creaked open, revealing a trove of photographs, letters, and forgotten mementos. Roy sifted through the contents, his heart heavy with emotion. The photographs depicted families with smiling faces, their lives intertwined with the barn's history. He recognized some of the names in the letters, neighbors who had sought shelter during that fateful storm. The words were filled with gratitude, detailing how the barn had provided them with hope when everything else seemed lost. In one letter, a mother wrote about her children sleeping peacefully in the barn while she prayed for the storm to pass. "We were scared," she penned, "but we knew we were safe here, thanks to your kindness." The words tugged at Roy's heart, reminding him of the strength of community, the bonds that formed in times of hardship. Another letter was from a young boy, expressing his gratitude for the games they had played in the barn while waiting out the storm. "Thank you for the hay bales," he wrote. "They made the best forts. I hope to come back and see you again." The innocence of the boy's words brought a smile to Roy's face, and he could almost hear the laughter of children ringing through the barn once more. As Roy continued to explore, he found an old journal, its pages worn and yellowed with time. The entries detailed the lives of those who had sought shelter, their hopes and dreams, and the struggles they faced. Each entry was a window into their world, revealing the resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. The journal belonged to a man named Samuel, who had written about his family's journey to find safety during the storm. "We lost our home," he wrote in one entry, "but we found kindness here. This barn has become a part of our story, a place where we can breathe, if only for a moment." Samuel's words struck a chord deep within Roy, and he couldn't help but feel a connection to this man, despite the years that separated them. Time seemed to stand still as Roy continued to explore. He uncovered a small photo of a little girl holding a stuffed bear, her smile radiant despite the storm raging outside. On the back, in careful handwriting, it read, "Thank you for keeping us safe." The image tugged at Roy's heart, reminding him that behind each boot and note was a story of hope, a testament to the power of kindness. The sun began to set outside, casting a warm golden glow through the barn doors. Roy made his decision. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small piece of paper, and began to write. "The house stands strong, and the barn still holds stories. Thank you for the memories." He pinned the note among the tiny boots, a simple promise that echoed with the hope of future returns. Days turned into weeks, and while Buck eventually ventured into the barn, the mystery of the boots lingered in the air. The old wood creaked, but now it sang a different tune, one of connection and shared humanity. Roy often found himself standing in the barn, looking at the boots, and remembering those who had once found solace there. He understood that some places were not just structures, they were memories, vessels for stories that needed to be told. He began to share the stories he uncovered with the community, gathering neighbors on Friday evenings for storytelling sessions in the barn. Each week he invited people to share their own tales, memories of their families' hardships and triumphs. The barn transformed from a solitary structure into a vibrant hub of connection. In the quiet of the evening, with Buck by his side, Roy would look up at the old barn, feeling a sense of completion. He had discovered a part of his land's history that connected him to those who had come before. And as he watched the sky turn from shades of gold to deep indigo, he realized that the barn was more than just wood and nails. It was a bridge between the past and the present. The storytelling sessions grew in popularity, attracting families from the surrounding areas. Children laughed as they played in the hay while their parents shared stories of resilience and community. Roy felt a sense of fulfillment as he watched the joy on their faces, knowing that the barn had become a place of healing. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Roy stood before his gathered friends. "This barn has seen more than just cattle and machinery," he said, his voice steady, yet filled with emotion. "It has held the stories of our community, of hope, of resilience, and of love. Let's continue to forge new memories together." As applause filled the space, Roy felt a warmth in his heart. He realized that the barn was not just a remnant of the past, but a beacon for the future. It would continue to shelter stories, binding generations together in a tapestry of shared history. With each gathering, people brought items to share, photographs, letters, heirlooms, that connected them to the past. They would sit together in the barn, laughter filling the air as they recounted tales of the past, weaving a rich narrative of shared experiences and cherished memories. One night, A woman named Clara stood up to share her story. She spoke of her late husband who had grown up in the very barn, forging a bond with Roy's family that had spanned decades. "When we were young, we would sneak into this barn and pretend it was our castle," she laughed, her eyes sparkling with nostalgia. "We'd have adventures that would last long into the night." As she spoke, Roy felt a warmth spread through him, knowing that the barn had played a key role in fostering friendships that had endured through time. It was a place filled with life, where laughter and tears mingled, creating an atmosphere of genuine connection. As the gatherings continued, Roy noticed a shift in the community. Neighbors who had once been strangers began to forge friendships, bonds that transcended the stories shared in the barn. They came together to support one another, helping with farming tasks, sharing meals, and uplifting one another during difficult times. One Saturday morning, as Roy worked in the fields, he noticed a group of neighbors approaching with baskets of fresh produce and baked goods. "We brought some food to share," a cheerful voice called out. The joy on their faces was infectious, and Roy felt gratitude swell within him. As they gathered in the barn to share a meal, the atmosphere buzzed with laughter and camaraderie. Roy looked around at the faces illuminated by the warm glow of lanterns, realizing that the barn had become more than just a structure. It had transformed into a living testament to the power of community. With each sunset that painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, Roy felt an overwhelming sense of peace. He had created something beautiful, a sanctuary that transcended time, a bridge connecting the past to the present. The barn stood strong as a symbol of unity, resilience, and the enduring spirit of humanity. And so, with Buck at his side, Roy embraced the warmth of community and the richness of shared humanity, finding strength in the stories that connected them all. As the stars began to twinkle above, he looked up, feeling a sense of fulfillment wash over him. He knew that the barn would remain a steadfast companion, holding the stories of all who passed through its doors, a beacon of hope for generations to come. As the weeks rolled into months, the barn transformed into more than just a refuge. It became a cornerstone of the community. Roy found himself immersed in a new rhythm, one that transcended the simple tasks of farming. Each Friday evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of orange and red, he would prepare for the gathering, setting up chairs and lanterns inside the barn. The air buzzed with anticipation, and Roy's heart swelled with pride as he watched neighbors arrive, each one bringing with them a piece of their heart and history. Buck, ever the faithful companion, would greet each newcomer with a wagging tail and an eager bark. The dog had become the unofficial mascot of the barn gatherings, drawing laughter and joy from everyone who set foot in the old wooden structure. As people settled in, Roy looked around at the familiar faces, smiling children, weary parents, and grandparents with stories etched in the lines of their faces. It was a tapestry of life, woven together in the warmth of shared experiences. That particular evening, the air felt electric, charged with the excitement of stories waiting to be told. Roy prepared to introduce the evening's theme, resilience in the face of adversity. He felt the weight of the words, knowing that the tales shared would resonate deeply within the hearts of those present. "Welcome, everyone," he began, his voice steady despite the flutter of nerves in his stomach. "Tonight we gather not just to share stories, but to celebrate the strength within our community. Each of us has faced challenges, some small, some monumental, but together we have come through. Let's share our journeys." As he spoke, Roy noticed a newcomer standing at the edge of the barn, a young woman with auburn hair and a hesitant smile. She clutched a small box tightly in her hands. Roy recognized her but couldn't place where he had seen her before. Curiosity piqued, he continued, inviting everyone to share their thoughts. One by one, neighbors stood to recount their tales. Clara spoke again, her voice warm as she recounted a time when she had lost her husband. "After he passed, I thought I'd never find joy again," she shared, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "But it was this barn, and all of you, that reminded me that I'm not alone. I found strength in your kindness." Applause followed her words, and Roy felt a swell of emotion in his chest. Stories flowed like a river, each one carving deeper channels of connection among the attendees. A farmer named Jake spoke about the drought that nearly destroyed his crops, how he had felt hopeless. "But you all rallied around me, helped me plant the fields again," he said, gratitude clear in his voice. "I'm not just a farmer. I'm a part of a family." Laughter erupted when a mother recounted her misadventures trying to teach her son to ride a bike, reminding everyone that resilience came in many forms, even in comical failures. The barn echoed with laughter, and for a moment, the worries of the outside world faded into the background. As the stories flowed, Roy watched the young woman inch closer, her box still clutched tightly. He smiled at her, encouraging her with a nod. When there was a pause in the storytelling, she finally stepped forward, her voice soft but steady. "I'm Sarah," she introduced herself, her cheeks flushed with shyness. "I recently moved here after my mother passed away. This barn, it's beautiful, and I wanted to share something special." With hands trembling, she opened the small box, revealing a collection of handmade ornaments, each one unique, crafted from small pieces of wood. "My mother used to make these with me every winter. She loved to tell stories about each one, how they represented hope, memories, and the strength of family bonds." She held up an ornament shaped like a heart. "This one is for love, for the connections we forge, even when faced with loss." The room fell silent, and the weight of her words hung in the air. Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger. "I want to give one to each of you, to remind you that even in our darkest times, there's always light if we just look for it." The kindness in her gesture resonated with everyone. One by one, the attendees came forward to take an ornament, smiles brightening their faces as they listened to Sarah's brief stories about each piece. The heart, the star, the tree, each ornament carried with it a tale of resilience, a reminder that they were part of a larger narrative woven through the fabric of humanity. As the evening progressed, the atmosphere grew warm and festive. Together, they hung the ornaments on a small tree Roy had placed in the corner of the barn, its branches swaying gently in the breeze. Laughter echoed against the wooden walls as they decorated, sharing stories about their own experiences with loss and love. Roy felt a deep sense of gratitude wash over him. This barn was no longer just a structure. It was a sanctuary for healing, a place where wounds could be shared and mended. Every story told, every ornament hung, added to the rich history being crafted within those walls. As the night drew to a close, Roy stood in front of the group, Buck by his side. "Thank you all for coming tonight, for sharing your stories and your hearts," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "This barn has become a reminder of our strength, our unity, and the love we have for each other. Let's keep this spirit alive." As the crowd dispersed, Roy felt a comforting warmth in his heart. He looked at Sarah, who was helping to clean up. "Thank you for sharing those ornaments. They mean a lot to all of us," he said sincerely. She smiled, her eyes sparkling. "I just wanted to give something back. Your barn reminded me of home, of the stories my mother would tell. I felt like I belonged here." In the weeks that followed, Sarah became a regular at the barn gatherings. Her quiet strength and willingness to share her story resonated deeply, and soon she built connections with others in the community. Together, they formed a close-knit group that supported one another through both joy and hardship. As the seasons changed, the community's bond only grew stronger. They celebrated harvest festivals in the fall, adorned the barn with twinkling lights during the winter holidays, and shared picnics beneath the blooming trees in spring. Each gathering became a new chapter, filled with laughter, tears, and stories that wove an intricate tapestry of life. One evening, as Roy prepared for another storytelling night, he received a phone call that sent shockwaves through his heart. It was a distant relative informing him of the passing of his uncle, his father's brother, who had been a father figure to him. The news hit Roy hard. He sat on the porch, staring into the twilight, feeling an emptiness settle in. His uncle had played a crucial role in his upbringing, teaching him the values of hard work and perseverance. He had always been there, a steady hand guiding Roy through life's challenges. But as the days passed, Roy began to reflect on the lessons his uncle had imparted, the stories shared over countless meals and evenings spent together in the barn. It was as if his uncle's spirit was alive in the very walls of that place, in the stories that had been shared and the connections that had been forged. With a heavy heart, Roy prepared a tribute for his uncle. He invited the community to gather for a special evening dedicated to his memory. "We'll share stories about those we've loved and lost," he announced, his voice steady despite the weight on his heart. "Let's celebrate the lives that shaped us and the legacies we carry forward." The night of the gathering arrived, and the barn glowed warmly under the soft lights. Friends and neighbors filled the space, their faces illuminated by a collective understanding of grief and love. There was a palpable energy in the air, a sense of unity that bound everyone together. Roy stood before the group, his heart heavy. "Tonight we honor not just my uncle, but all those we hold dear. They may no longer walk among us, but their stories, their laughter, and their love live on in our hearts." As he spoke, memories flooded his mind. The stories, the laughter, the lessons learned. He shared tales of his uncle's strength and kindness, how he had always been a guiding light during difficult times. Each word felt like a tribute, a way to keep his spirit alive. One by one, others began to share their own stories, of family members, friends, and mentors who had shaped their lives. Clara spoke about her late husband, recalling the laughter they shared, and how his love had transformed her life. Jake shared the story of his father, an immigrant who had built everything from nothing, instilling in him the values of hard work and determination. As the stories flowed, the barn rang with both laughter and tears. They passed around a framed photo of Roy's uncle, adorned with flowers. The atmosphere felt sacred, as if they were collectively creating a tapestry of memories that would forever preserve the essence of those they had lost. In that moment, Roy realized that this was the true power of community, the ability to come together, to share grief, to celebrate lives lived. The bonds they had formed were unbreakable, woven through stories that transcended time and space. As the evening came to a close, Roy felt a sense of peace wash over him. The barn had become a sanctuary for healing, a sacred space where they could connect with their past while embracing the present. They had honored their loved ones, and in doing so had also deepened their connections to one another. In the days that followed, Roy found himself reflecting on the importance of sharing stories, how they carried the essence of the people we love, even long after they have gone. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, recognizing that each gathering was an opportunity to honor those who shaped their lives, to create a legacy of love that would be passed down through generations. As the seasons shifted once more, the barn continued to thrive with activity. It became a hub of creativity and connection. Neighbors began to collaborate on projects, from art exhibitions to seasonal markets, celebrating the beauty of their shared heritage. One afternoon, as Roy worked alongside Sarah preparing for the upcoming harvest festival, he felt a sense of gratitude wash over him. "Can you believe how far we've come since you first joined us?" he remarked, wiping sweat from his brow. Sarah smiled, her eyes sparkling with warmth. "I never imagined I would find a place like this. It feels like home," she replied, her voice genuine. In that moment, Roy understood the profound impact of the barn, not just as a physical structure, but as a vessel for connection and community. It had become a living testament to the strength of the human spirit, a reminder that even in times of loss, love remained. As the harvest festival approached, excitement filled the air. The barn was adorned with colorful decorations, and the scent of baked goods wafted through the openings. Families arrived with baskets of fresh produce, laughter blending with the sounds of children playing in the fields. On the day of the festival, the barn was alive with energy. Neighbors gathered to share food, stories, and laughter, celebrating the bounty of the land and the strength of their community. It was a day of joy, a testament to resilience and connection. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the fields, Roy stood at the entrance of the barn, taking in the scene before him. Laughter rang out, children chased one another, and families shared meals, their faces illuminated by the soft light. In that moment, he realized that the barn had become a symbol of hope, an embodiment of the love and resilience that defined their community. It was a place where stories were born, where connections flourished, and where the spirit of those they had lost continued to shine brightly. As the stars began to twinkle above, Roy felt a profound sense of gratitude. He knew that the barn would forever hold the stories of their lives, a cherished space where memories would be woven together, creating a tapestry of love that would span generations. With Buck by his side, he took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of community envelop him. The barn had become a beacon of hope, a testament to the power of connection and the enduring spirit of humanity. And as the festival continued, Roy knew that he was exactly where he was meant to be, surrounded by friends, family, and a legacy of love that would live on in the hearts of all who gathered within those cherished walls. As the harvest festival reached its peak, the joy and laughter that filled the barn resonated with a sense of belonging that everyone craved. Families gathered in clusters, sharing plates piled high with seasonal produce and homemade pies, while children darted between tables, their laughter a symphony of childhood innocence. The air was thick with the aroma of freshly baked goods, mingling with the earthy scent of hay and the crispness of autumn leaves. Roy watched with pride as his friends and neighbors engaged in animated conversations, their faces glowing in the warm light of the lanterns strung above. The barn, once a mere structure on his property, had transformed into a sanctuary of community, a place where stories were exchanged and bonds were strengthened. It was a living testament to the resilience of the human spirit. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the barn floor, Roy felt a wave of nostalgia wash over him. This festival, with its vibrant colors and laughter, reminded him of times spent in the very same barn with his family, sharing meals and tales of days gone by. It was also a poignant reminder of the loved ones they had lost, whose spirits lingered in the echoes of laughter and the warmth of shared memories. "Roy, come help us with the hay bales," Clara called out, snapping him from his reverie. She was surrounded by a group of children, each one eager to help, their energy infectious. Roy chuckled as he made his way over, joining in the fun as they stacked hay bales for the evening's activities. "Watch out, or you'll end up under the hay instead of on top of it," he teased the children, who giggled and scrambled to avoid getting buried. It was in these moments, amidst laughter and play, that the true spirit of the community shone. Once the hay bales were stacked, Roy gathered everyone around for a storytelling session, a cherished tradition that had become a highlight of the festival. "All right, everyone," he called out, raising his voice above the chatter. "It's time to share some stories." The crowd quieted, anticipation hanging in the air. Roy felt a sense of warmth and comfort as he looked around at the familiar faces, each one filled with a mixture of joy and sincerity. "Tonight, let's share tales of gratitude, moments in our lives that have shaped us and made us who we are today." Clara volunteered first, stepping forward with a smile. "I want to tell you all about a time when I found unexpected kindness," she began, her voice steady. "After my husband passed, I felt as if the world had lost its color. I was struggling to keep up with everything. My gardening, the kids, just daily life. It was one of those days where everything felt too heavy." The crowd listened intently as Clara recounted how one morning she had stepped outside, defeated by the weight of her grief. But to her surprise, her neighbors had gathered to help tend to her garden, planting flowers and vegetables that would bloom in the spring. "They knew I needed support even when I couldn't ask for it," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "It reminded me that we're never truly alone. There's always someone willing to help." As she spoke, Roy noticed heads nodding in agreement. The power of community was palpable, and the warmth in the barn deepened. After Clara finished, others chimed in, sharing their own stories of kindness and gratitude. Jake shared his experience of losing his farm to a devastating drought, and how the community rallied around him, helping him replant and rebuild. "I thought I'd lost everything," he recalled, his voice barely above a whisper. "But you all showed me that I still had family." As the stories flowed, laughter mingled with tears, creating a rich tapestry of shared experiences. Roy felt a knot of emotion tighten in his throat. These stories were not just individual moments, they were threads that connected them all, weaving a beautiful narrative of resilience and hope. As the sun set further, painting the sky in deep shades of purple and gold, Sarah stood up, her expression contemplative. "I have a story too, one that I've been holding on to since I moved here," she said, her voice steady. "When I first arrived, I was lost in my grief. Everything felt foreign, and I didn't know if I would ever find a place to belong again." The room fell silent as she continued. "But when I came to the barn for the first time, I felt something shift within me. It was as if I could hear the stories of everyone who had come before me, their laughter and pain echoing through the wooden walls. I realized that I wasn't alone in my suffering. We all carry our burdens, but we also share our joys." Sarah smiled gently, her eyes shining. "I'm grateful for every one of you. You welcomed me with open arms, and each time I step into this barn, I feel a little more at home." Roy felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes, and he could see that he wasn't alone in this sentiment. The sense of community had grown stronger, weaving them together like threads of a tapestry, each one representing a unique story filled with strength and love. As the night continued, they shared more stories, each one a testament to resilience. The sounds of laughter echoed in the barn, weaving around the old wooden beams, wrapping everyone in a warm embrace. Finally, as the stars began to twinkle above, painting the sky with silver dust, it was time to close the evening. Roy stood before the group, his heart full. "Thank you all for sharing your stories tonight. Each of you is a vital part of this community, and together, we create something beautiful." He took a moment to collect his thoughts. "Let's carry this spirit forward. Together, we can face anything that comes our way." With applause ringing in the air, they shared a collective moment of understanding. It was a night filled with gratitude, connection, and hope, a night that would weave itself into the fabric of their lives. As the festival wound down, people began to say their goodbyes, but promises to return filled the air. Roy felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This barn, once merely a shelter for livestock, had become a home for stories, laughter, and healing, a reminder that in the face of adversity, they would always rise together. In the weeks that followed, the barn continued to thrive as a gathering place for the community. With each story shared, they built upon the foundation of trust that had been fostered within those walls. The spirit of resilience echoed through every corner, growing stronger as they leaned on one another. As winter approached, the barn was transformed into a warm sanctuary for holiday celebrations. Families brought their traditions, adding new layers to the barn's history. They strung lights, hung ornaments, and shared recipes that had been passed down through generations. The air filled with the scent of cinnamon and fresh pine as they gathered for holiday dinners, a time for celebrating love and togetherness. Roy felt a renewed sense of purpose as he watched the community flourish. They worked together to prepare for the upcoming winter, offering hands to help one another with chores, gathering firewood, and sharing meals. It was a heartwarming sight, and he realized that the barn had become a symbol of hope, an emblem of what they could achieve when they stood together. One chilly evening, as snow began to fall softly outside, Roy found himself in the barn, preparing for the next gathering. Buck lay at his feet, his golden fur blending into the hay, a comforting presence. With lanterns lit and decorations adorning the walls, the barn felt alive with possibility. As the community arrived, the ambiance shifted. Families bundled in cozy scarves and mittens entered, laughter spilling into the air like a warm embrace. Roy smiled as he welcomed each person, the familiar faces filling the space that had become a second home. Tonight, Let's celebrate the spirit of the season and the bonds we've built, he announced, raising his voice above the chatter. Let's share stories of our traditions, our hopes for the future, and the gratitude we hold for one another. As the night unfolded, voices filled the barn with stories of family recipes, cherished memories, and hopes for the coming year. The warmth of the community enveloped them, a living testament to the power of love and connection. One story caught Roy's attention as a young boy stood up, nervous yet determined, clutching a piece of paper. "I want to share something my mom told me about our family," he said, looking around at the gathering. "She says that no matter what happens, family is the most important thing we have." The boy's words struck a chord, resonating in the hearts of everyone present, and a wave of emotion washed over Roy. As the boy continued, countless stories of love and togetherness flowed, each one a reminder of their shared humanity. As the evening drew to a close, they lit candles, each one representing a hope for the new year ahead. The flickering flames danced in the dim light, illuminating faces filled with warmth and gratitude. Roy felt a surge of emotion. The barn had become a beacon for their community, a guiding light that would always lead them home. As they shared one final toast, raising their glasses to celebrate their resilience and togetherness, Roy realized that the bonds they had forged would endure through every season, through every challenge life might throw their way. The barn had become a symbol of hope, a sanctuary where stories would continue to be shared, where laughter would echo, and where love would always prevail. And as the snow continued to fall gently outside, the warmth of community filled the barn, creating a haven of connection that would last for generations to come. With every story shared, every candle lit, and every laugh exchanged, they built a legacy of love that would endure long after the final goodbyes were said. Roy knew deep in his heart that this was only the beginning of a beautiful journey, one filled with hope, togetherness, and the enduring spirit of humanity. As winter deepened in Alabama, the barn had taken on a magical quality, radiating warmth against the backdrop of a cold, snowy landscape. It had become the heart of the community, where laughter, stories, and shared meals brought people together in a way that transcended the ordinary. Each gathering was a celebration of life, resilience, and the power of connection. Roy Montgomery had stepped into a role he hadn't anticipated, becoming a leader and a source of strength for his neighbors. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that the barn had transformed into a sanctuary of healing for all who entered. The community embraced this space, turning it into a vibrant hub of activity that pulsed with life. On the evening of Sarah's holiday celebration, the barn was abuzz with excitement. Families arrived, bundled in warm coats and scarves, carrying trays of cookies, decorations, and their own cherished memories. Roy stood at the barn's entrance, welcoming everyone with a smile, his heart swelling with pride as he watched them come together. "Roy," Clara called, her arms full of festive ornaments. "Help me hang these up. We're going to make this place sparkle." Roy chuckled and joined her, climbing up a ladder to hang the decorations high on the rafters. Laughter echoed around them as the community worked in harmony, their camaraderie evident in the playful banter exchanged. As he hung the last ornament, he took a moment to gaze at the barn's transformation. It was no longer just a shelter for cattle. It was a vibrant space filled with love and memories. As the evening progressed, Sarah took charge of the cookie baking station, guiding children and adults alike as they rolled out dough and cut it into festive shapes. The air filled with the sweet scent of vanilla and spices, creating an atmosphere of warmth that wrapped around everyone like a cozy blanket. "Don't forget to sprinkle the sugar on top before we bake them," Sarah called, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. She felt a sense of purpose in honoring her mother's traditions, and it was infectious. One young girl, a newcomer named Mia, stood beside Sarah, her brow furrowed in concentration as she carefully decorated a gingerbread cookie with colorful icing. "Is this how your mom used to do it?" Mia asked, her small voice filled with curiosity. "Exactly," Sarah replied, her heart swelling with fond memories. She would always say that the best cookies are made with love. It's not just about how they look. It's about the joy you put into making them. As they worked, Sarah shared stories about her mother, how she would sing while baking, telling tales of the past that made even the simplest recipe come alive. Laughter and joy echoed around the barn, creating an environment of shared love and creativity. Later, as the cookies baked in the warmth of the barn's oven, everyone gathered around to share their own holiday traditions. Clara recounted the story of her late husband's famous spice cake, revealing how he would always sneak extra ingredients when she wasn't looking to make it even more special. The room erupted in laughter, and Roy loved the way their stories flowed seamlessly, building a tapestry of shared experiences. "It's amazing how our traditions shape us," Roy said, looking around at the smiling faces. "They connect us to our past while helping us forge new memories together." With the cookies ready for decoration, the children crowded around Sarah, eager to add their unique touches. The barn filled with giggles and delighted squeals as icing was smeared, cookies adorned with sprinkles, and laughter rang out. As the festivities continued, the warmth of the barn contrasted beautifully with the cold, snowy night outside. Roy took a moment to step outside, breathing in the crisp air. The snowflakes danced around him, and he felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. This community had embraced him, and together they had built something extraordinary. The barn had become more than just a gathering place. It had evolved into a home, a sanctuary where love and resilience thrived amid the challenges of life. As the evening wore on, they lit candles, each flame representing a cherished memory and a reminder of those they had lost. The soft glow illuminated their faces, and Roy felt a sense of unity envelop them all. "Tonight, we honor not just our traditions and memories," he announced, stepping forward to address everyone. "We honor the spirit of togetherness. Let's carry this light with us into the new year, reminding ourselves that we are never alone." As they shared a collective moment of reflection, Roy felt a deep sense of connection. He looked at the faces around him, Sarah, Clara, Jake, and the many others who had become family over time. Together, they had created a legacy of love that would endure. After the candle ceremony, the festivities turned to music. Roy grabbed his guitar, strumming familiar chords that resonated through the barn. Soon, familiar voices joined him, singing holiday carols that echoed in harmony against the wooden walls. Laughter and singing filled the barn, wrapping everyone in a warm embrace that reminded them of the power of joy and connection. As the night drew to a close, Roy gathered everyone together for one last toast. "Here's to the memories we share, the love that binds us, and the strength we find in each other," he said, lifting his glass. The community raised their glasses, their faces glowing with happiness and warmth. The barn, now filled with laughter and the aroma of cookies, had become a tapestry of life, a sanctuary where love thrived, and every story was cherished. In the weeks that followed, Sarah's holiday celebration ignited a fire within the community, inspiring them to continue gathering and sharing. They began to hold weekly events, each one focused on building connections and celebrating their shared humanity. Roy found himself increasingly grateful for the friendships that had blossomed, and he worked tirelessly to ensure the barn remained a welcoming haven for all. Together, they celebrated every season: spring picnics, summer barbecues, and autumn harvest festivals, each gathering weaving them tighter into the fabric of a loving community. As spring approached, the barn burst forth with new life. Fresh flowers blossomed around the entrance, and laughter once again filled the air as children chased one another through the fields. Roy stood outside, watching the joy unfold, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment. This was the legacy he had built, a community rooted in love and resilience, a place that would continue to flourish long after he was gone. The barn had transformed into a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times, joy could be found in the company of others. And as the sun set over the horizon, casting a warm glow across the landscape, Roy knew that the spirit of the barn would live on, forever etched in the hearts of those who had gathered within its walls. Together, they had created a legacy of love that would thrive for generations to come. The warm glow of spring enveloped the barn as it stood proudly against the backdrop of blooming flowers and lush greenery. The community had blossomed alongside it, their bonds strengthened through shared stories and experiences. Roy Montgomery often found himself reflecting on how far they had come, marveling at the transformation, not just of the barn, but of the people within it. As the first rays of sunlight streamed through the barn doors, Roy prepared for another gathering. He had decided to host a spring renewal event, a celebration of new beginnings. He could feel the excitement in the air, a palpable energy that ignited anticipation among the neighbors. The day of the event arrived, and the barn buzzed with activity. Families arrived with baskets of fresh produce, flowers, and homemade treats. Laughter floated through the air as children darted around, their joy infectious. Roy stood at the entrance, welcoming everyone with open arms, feeling the warmth of community wash over him. "Today is about celebrating our connections," he announced, his voice steady and filled with enthusiasm. "Let's embrace the spirit of renewal and share our hopes for the future." As the gathering unfolded, neighbors shared their dreams and aspirations. Clara spoke of starting a community garden, a place where families could grow their own vegetables and cultivate not just plants but relationships. Jake shared his desire to start a mentorship program for young farmers, passing on the knowledge he had received from his father. Sarah, her spirit revitalized, spoke of organizing art classes for children, encouraging creativity and expression. The ideas flowed freely, each suggestion met with encouragement and enthusiasm. Roy watched with a sense of pride, knowing that the barn had become a catalyst for positive change. "Let's take this opportunity to plant seeds, both in our gardens and in our hearts," he said, encouraging everyone to participate in planting flowers around the barn. "As we nurture these plants, let's also nurture our relationships, creating a thriving community." With laughter and joy, they began to plant flowers in vibrant colors, their hands digging into the rich soil. Children giggled as they helped, while adults exchanged stories, sharing their knowledge of gardening. The barn transformed into a garden of hope, each flower representing a dream, a connection, and a commitment to one another. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Roy felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. This gathering was more than just planting flowers. It was about sowing the seeds of love and friendship. They were cultivating something beautiful, a legacy that would flourish in the years to come. When the planting was complete, they gathered for lunch under the shade of the barn, sharing dishes that reflected their diverse backgrounds. Each meal was a celebration of culture, a reminder that their community was rich with stories and traditions. Roy felt a deep sense of fulfillment as he watched everyone enjoy the food, laughter mingling with the aroma of freshly prepared meals. After lunch, it was time to share more stories. Roy encouraged each person to share their journey, the challenges they had faced and the dreams they held for the future. One by one, they spoke of resilience and hope, weaving a tapestry of experiences that resonated deeply with everyone present. Sarah stood up, her voice confident. "I want to thank each of you for being here and for lifting me up during my toughest moments. You've helped me find joy again, and I'm excited about what we can create together." Her words sparked a round of applause, and Roy felt a warmth in his heart. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the barn, they gathered in a circle, hands joined. Roy felt the energy of the moment, a collective heartbeat of dreams and hopes. "Let's take a moment to reflect on our commitment to one another," he said softly. "As we move forward, let's continue to support each other, celebrating our successes and lifting each other up during struggles." With that, they each shared a word or a phrase that represented their hopes for the season ahead. "Growth," Clara said. "Togetherness," Jake added. "Creativity," Sarah chimed in. One by one, words of inspiration filled the air, creating a tapestry of intentions that enveloped them all. As the gathering came to a close, Roy looked around at the faces illuminated by the soft glow of the setting sun. The barn had become more than just a building. It was a sanctuary of growth, a place where dreams could take root and flourish. With gratitude in his heart, Roy breathed in the fresh air, feeling a sense of peace wash over him. They had planted not just flowers but also the seeds of connection, nurturing relationships that would endure the challenges of life. As laughter echoed in the evening air, Roy knew that they had created something special. The barn would continue to be a place of renewal, hope, and love, where the spirit of community thrived and where every story mattered. And as the stars began to twinkle above, the promise of a bright future shimmered in the hearts of all who had gathered, united by their shared commitment to one another and to the beautiful legacy they were building together. As summer settled over Alabama, the barn remained a vibrant hub of community life, filled with laughter and camaraderie. Roy Montgomery stood outside one evening, watching the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. In that moment, he reflected on the extraordinary journey they had embarked upon together. Tonight's gathering would celebrate the growth they had achieved, not just in the gardens outside but within their hearts. Families filled the barn, bringing dishes to share and stories to tell. The air buzzed with excitement as children played, their laughter echoing off the barn walls. "Welcome, everyone," Roy called, his voice filled with warmth. "Tonight, let's reflect on how far we've come and how we can continue to support each other." As people began to share their experiences, the stories flowed easily, each one a testament to their resilience. Clara spoke passionately about the community garden, how it had transformed relationships and provided fresh produce for families. "We've learned to work together and celebrate our harvests," she said, her pride evident. Jake followed, recounting the success of his mentorship program for young farmers. "It's been incredible to see them grow not just in skills, but in confidence," he shared, beaming at the young faces in the audience. Sarah chimed in about her art classes for children. "The creativity in this barn is inspiring. It's a joy to watch them express themselves," she said, her enthusiasm contagious. With each story shared, Roy felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. This barn had become a sanctuary for growth where vulnerability met compassion and dreams were nurtured. As the evening progressed, Roy stood before everyone, the soft glow of lanterns illuminating his face. "Together we've built a legacy of hope and resilience," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "Let's continue to lift each other up and celebrate our achievements." The crowd erupted in applause, a collective acknowledgement of their strength and unity. Roy felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The barn had evolved into more than a structure. It was a testament to their shared journey, a symbol of the powerful bonds they had formed. As the gathering drew to a close, hugs were exchanged, promises to meet again were made, and laughter filled the night air. With the stars twinkling above, Roy locked the barn doors, feeling at peace. The community had become a family, intertwined through shared experiences and dreams. With every gathering, they continued to strengthen their ties, ensuring their legacy would endure for generations to come. The barn stood as a beacon of hope, a reminder that together they could face anything life threw their way.